Konnichiwa and welcome to episode 43 of the Leadership Japan podcast. And I am your host in Tokyo, Dr. Greg Story, president of Dale Carnegie Training Japan. And much more importantly, you are a student of leadership, highly motivated to be the best in your business field. And if you would like your own access to 102 years of the accumulated wisdom of Dale Carnegie Training, it is available to you free through our white papers, guidebooks, reports, training videos, blogs, course information, plus much, much more. Please go to japan.dalecarnegie.com and check it out. Today, our topic is women get no respect. In my experience, women in Japan are rarely taken seriously as professionals. Their insights, ideas, and opinions are not often sought after by their bosses. Passivity and order-taking are encouraged, and the old axiom about women in the workplace there to be bedded or wedded doesn't seem to have changed much since I arrived here in the late 1970s. Among most businessmen, being confident and asserting your opinion is seen as forthright and generally admired. The same attributes in a woman are scorned. Harridan is probably one of the more polite descriptors. Of course, it is wrong, unfair, biased, discriminatory, outrageous, and by the way, good luck waiting for men to change. While you are waiting, here are some useful ideas pioneered by Dale Carnegie over 100 years ago on how to hold your ground when disagreeing with men and to avoid being stereotyped, excluded, ignored, or dismissed. Learn how to maintain your viewpoint and be seen as a business professional with a valuable insight into any problem. During disagreements, women are more emotional than men. Really? In my observation, men are quick to emotion too. They express it as anger, frustration, short temper, swearing, nasty comebacks, vicious one-upmanship, etc. Generally speaking, when we are too fast in our response to another's differing opinion, we get ourselves into trouble. The usual speaking speed is, 150, maybe up to maximum 200 words per minute. But our listening capacity is closer to 600. So in the gap, we are thinking very quickly, picking up the threads of where a conversation is going, and we can find ourselves perfectly ready to weigh in and disagree with our interlocutor. We're often so quick, we manage to cut them off before they have even finished. And through either words or body language, we strongly signal our dismissal of their position. While we can admire the speed and efficiency of all this latent brain power, this is not particularly effective. For most men, as soon as they hear the vaguest hint of a no, but, however, or sense rejection or disagreement, etc., they just stop listening and their brains go into overdrive with all of the reasons that you are wrong and they are right. We really add fuel to the flame because often we blurt out the no or but and then haplessly try to supply the valid reason behind that. Well, the latter just simply goes unheard as our counterpart goes temporarily deaf and totally concentrates on formulating their spiffy comeback. So, the first thing we have to learn is to slow down. When you want to disagree with a man's idea, suggestion, recommendation, or policy, don't jump in. Wait until he has exhausted all he wants to say. Now, for clever, high-paced people, this can be excruciating. Think of all the people you know who can very handily finish your sentences for you. Hey, maybe you are an expert sentence finisher yourself for others. Well, learn to be patient. We need to put a cushion between the last word they speak and the main body of our rebuttal. Now, this is only a few seconds, say 4 or 5. So it does not seem to be an unnatural delay in proceedings. What we are doing here is stopping ourselves from blurting out the very first thing that comes into our head. This blurt is really the best structured or considered response. How do we arrange that cushion and appear completely natural? It is simple. We vocalize a comment while we are thinking at the same time about what we want to say. The comment, however, has to be such that it does not inflame the disagreement. We make a remark that neither agrees nor disagrees with the opinion just expressed, and one which is almost impossible to argue with. For example, you hear the comment on your wonderful new shiny idea. There is no way we have budget for an expense like that at this time of the year. Really, what are you thinking, making a ridiculous suggestion like that? Well, hearing this, we may contemplate going into gunplay at close quarters and start blazing away, denouncing this affront on our person and his temerity in dismissing our idea. This is where we need the cushion. What we say is something like this. We make a very good point that how we allocate the budget is a critical decision for the company. Well, that's a hard one to argue with, isn't it? It buys you valuable thinking time and better prepares you for what you are now going to say. By the way, in those few seconds, we need to quickly revisit the possibility we could be wrong, to inquire to ourselves why we hold the opinion we do, and to consider our position before making a response. We can do all that in 5 seconds. Actually, we can do it without much difficulty. Before venturing forth with our counter to his opinion, we play a clever move, not dissimilar to castling in chess. We change the goalposts on him. We don't launch into a comeback featuring sparkling revelations as to why we are totally justified in holding our position. We tell a story instead. Most guys are pretty simple, so even they can usually follow a story. This story is actually an artfully disguised context for our opinion. We add in the story names, dates, places, events, incidents, colour, movement, especially things he is familiar with. We make it real for him because it has to be real. We weave a tale that fleshes out why we have come to the conclusion we have based on what we know about the situation. Now, it is very, very difficult for him to argue with context. How we might interpret the context is another matter, but often inside that story, which we have stocked carefully with evidence, sits the keys to persuasion. We may bring up certain information about which he had no idea, or we may show a different angle based on evidence that he had not considered. This whole process will take less than 2 minutes. And at the end, we again note the action we recommend and the benefit that will avail to everyone if our advice is followed. This close takes about 10 seconds, and we finish with the benefit because we want them to have the positive ringing in their ear as the last thing they hear. So back to the example. Their statement: there is no way we have budget for an expense like that at this time of the year. Really, what are you thinking? Making a ridiculous suggestion like that. You make a very good point that how we allocate the budget is a critical decision for the company. I was talking to Bill, the CFO, over the phone conference last Thursday afternoon, and he mentioned that there was an internal rebate on certain expenditures, but they only applied if we got the paperwork in with receipts presented by the end of September. He gave me the example of our branch in Denmark, who've been able to fund a major project study off the rebate, and this set them up nicely for their business plan for the new financial year. They increased revenues by 30% in the first quarter of the year as a result. I was impressed when he told me that. We could do the same thing, but only if we move fast. That is why I have suggested we make this expenditure now, because by accessing the existing residual monies, we will halve the total cost of this project, which we all agreed we should do, and we will get a major head start as we kick off the new financial year. So, in that scenario, the keys are being able to cushion first and then switch into the story, backing up our point with evidence, and then tie the bow at the end with the action and benefit piece. Remember, the last thing we want them hearing is the benefit. So, before you launch forth with your rebuttal to his stupid, ill-conceived, half-baked, rude, ludicrous, and inaccurate comment on your idea, hit him with your cushion and set yourself up for some persuasion power. Ladies, start bracing yourself to be treated as a professional by men here in Japan. Thank you for joining the Leadership Japan podcast. Remember to access your Dale Carnegie Training free white papers, guidebooks, training videos, blogs, course information, plus much, much more. Go to japan.dalecarnegie.com.